Well, they'll have a tournament, but they won't, I mean, that's what they're called, a travel team, and they don't have a home field.
Is there any way that we can specify further in here, specifically calling out Thurmont Babe Ruth, Thurmont Little League, Mount St. Mary's, and Catoctin Recreation Softball to be excluded, as nonprofits excluded from any fees, and then residents excluded from any fees, and then anything else, for-profit or non-residents, outside of the groups that we listed and outside of the Emmitsburg zip code, then would be responsible for some sort of fee to use the field.
Can you put that in the policy?
If I understood it.
I don't think you can.
Confused now.
I don't think you can necessarily
So basically what you're saying is nonprofits, regardless of where you reside, there's no fee. Correct?
That's not what I was saying, but I guess we could do that.
I think if you pigeonhole yourself if you name individual teams
Right.
versus just saying nonprofits in general.
Otherwise, we'd have to revisit the policy
Correct,
every year.
every
I don't
year.
want to do that.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So if you
let's
say
just
nonprofits,
nonprofit.
yeah.
Are you charging for tournaments?
Travel teams are considered nonprofit.
They'll fill out the nonprofit, won't they?
There's some that will, but there's a lot of them.
Is Mid-Maryland United a 501c nonprofit organization?
You could actually, if you just want to go back to the way that it was, you could strike altogether your reservation fees and just have the requirement of the 501, I don't know. You have to require the insurance. The insurance is a requirement that all leagues must provide. It can be written as nonprofit if they provide nonprofit status, if a travel team provides it, they provide appropriate documentation, then that's what we have to accept.
What if we specifically caught the term travel team? Designated as versus recreation. Yeah, help me out here.
Yeah, no,
Yeah, because all Thurmont is recreational.
yeah, recreational, my son plays
Just
travel,
don't think
and
you
he plays
should.
travel.
Okay.
So that's the deal. The rec, you don't get cut from. We take all the kids, so everyone has an opportunity to play.
I think,
The travel, it's select.
to me, I think at this point, the money difference is not worth the designation and the possible problems that you have by discriminating against one group from another, which could be perceived as you're going to give recreational teams everything for free, you're going to charge your travel teams. It could appear that we are favoring recreational over travel. At this point, the monies that were received from the travel team, and if they are going to have limited use, I don't think it's worth breaking it apart and opening ourselves up to any sort of complaint or questioning. We can write it as nonprofits. You can do away with your fees altogether, require the insurance.
So why don't we pilot 1 year, no fee, review this next year at this time, and see if there's value to fee-related use?
The way that you had just stated it.
I'm good with that.
I was going to say, does that
Okay, what
fit your vision,
Yes. The
Commissioner
way you
Davis?
just said.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. I just didn't want to see us go in the hole,
All
Do you want to bring that back
nonprofits-
to us in January so we can see it and then?
all
later on?
nonprofits, all teams that are going to use all fee structures are waived
Okay.
at this time, and it'll be re-examined December of 2020 for the board to address possible losses or anything. Yeah.
All right, so yeah, what we can do is do a sunset clause on it, and then it'll go back to the original way unless you decide to change it.
Okay, that works for me. I wasn't trying to be difficult. I was just trying to...
No, I just
It'd be nice
trying to
get 'em
work
used.
through it.
You
Commissioner
were still applying for
O'Donnell?
grant money, correct? For it to help offset the cost?
Yes.
Yeah.
We actually have two grants submitted to pave the parking lot in Community Park back by Ball Field number 3. And we also have submitted a grant for paving the parking lot in Memorial Park.
Okay.
So we continue, staff is. And new bleachers.
Wow.
For which
New
field?
bleachers on the main baseball field? The Little League field?
I don't remember now. But we do have a grant submitted for new bleachers, and I think it is in Memorial Park. Is that correct? Yes.
And Maddie, could this help you with grants, since we're gonna be saying we're doing a regional concept? That it's not just Emmitsburg, it's Emmitsburg, Thurmont. Yeah.
Communities.
Here I am trying to tell
They do like
I'm
multiple
telling the grant
communities.
queen how to write her grants now,
Did you take a class?
State of the Holiday Inn Express.
So,
You will have that back for us in January.
yes.
Yeah, some of our fire grants.
We do have another meeting this month if you can get it done before then.
No,
Okay,
sorry.
that's okay.
Got something
I was
else.
trying to get it out of the way.
I know. No.
I just want to say, this whole, kudos to Commissioner Davis for spearheading this. I'm excited to see all of our fields being used.
So am I.
This
Wait until the first pitch is thrown. Then
this is fantastic.
We just gotta hope we don't fall off the track, so.
So with that being said, once this policy is approved, we can start accepting applications and agreements for ball field use.
Correct. And you know what they need? Nonprofit and insurance.
Easy enough.
Contact Miss Ray, Terry Ray, our office manager.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all for taking
Thank you,
care of our
yeah.
kids. I mean, you're kind of a lifesaver. They're going all over the place. It'd be nice to kind of get them all herded
that?
back together somewhere. And I know it won't be in Emmitsburg all the time, but it's a
Bring them home.
start. So,
Bring them
It's
home.
a step in the right direction.
thank you so much.
And thank you, Mr. Davis, for doing that. Alrighty, now we're up to item number 6.
No, no.
Is it 6? Yeah.
This one.
Nope.
Approval of ordinance 19-10, which approves the sale of 140
yours.
South Seton Avenue. That's just the house, correct?
Correct.
Not the
Correct.
garage.
Correct. So,
Okay, I got it.
I'll go. You're good.
Okay. Yes, we had a professionally marketed by J&B Realty out of Thurmont. They received a contract on November 15th after you all agreed to our premise to put it on the market. And it was put on at 160. They came in at a price of 165, 5 over the list priced.
Pressed.
Seller's contribution for this is typical in this price range of $9,600 they asked for. We still have to complete our waterproofing in the basement. Settlement is January 10th. We have it's in escrow, but there's a deposit of cash escrow of $1,000. We're selling it as is. The buyer has up to 12 days to do all its inspections and rights to terminate. It's a USDA, U.S. Department of Agricultural is doing the financing. They have some constraints. There's a home inspector that's going through there, and an appraiser will go through there. And on page, what is it, 111, there's a summary of the settlement sheet. Out of the 165,000 after deductions, it's estimated we would receive 144,298 for that. Now, we do have to do something. We have to upgrade some of the electrical outlets in the kitchen, and we also had to put smoke detectors in addition to work in the basement. But there may be some little artsy, craftsy things we have to do, like a hand railing here, or whatever some of these people. We have 3 inspectors going through. The lenders got their constraints, and then we've got the home inspector. But we're trying to keep it to 500. But it's sold as is. We have the right. We're not bound to all improvements. We just have to. If we get a contract, I would recommend. I like the contract. It's fast, professionally marketed, and 144. I'd like to see if we at least could have about a 5% swing on that. It'd be all right if we had to negotiate before bringing it back to you. It'd be about $8,000 or something like that. Go ahead.
Part of the parking, how much?
The whole
the
parking lot.
The whole parking lot there goes to the house.
Right, except there's an easement from the town that's covered in that plat we showed you.
Get to the garage.
Right.
Mr.
Yeah,
Mayor, I have a
let-
question. then.
Go ahead.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, this doesn't come back to the board once they approve this.
Okay, but I wanted the slack, I wanted them, if we think we're getting 144,000, I'd like you all to give me the permission, at least the $8,000, if there's some crazy things we have to, which happens with old houses.
Could I ask a question then?
Yes,
Yeah, Mr. Ritz.
How much do we currently own on the property, the loan?
we own about 196,000, I believe.
170
Oh, I'm
couple,
sorry.
yeah, or low 170s.
So we're going to be pretty close to free and clear on our in equity on the back building. A little bit of remainder with Woodsboro Bank to pay off, but it clears it out, puts it back on the tax roll, and we as we laid out, we have access back and forth there, and there are certain things we have to work out on snow removal and stuff like that, but it's pretty much ready to go. If it just depends what all these inspectors come back with. Yes, sir. Somebody, you?
Mr. O'Donnell.
Mr. Mayor, thank you for getting this together. This looks good. I think town staff had some questions about the contingency piece. A question I have is just quickly, the value of this is the house goes to private property, so it's back paying taxes. Is that correct?
Right.
The town's no longer liable for that property
Right.
and other gain from this that I'm not seeing? Just a quick reminder. I thought there was a third thing.
It's just making it active. This was bought back in 2006,
Okay.
the whole property for about $325,000, and it was supposed to be a parking lot.
Right. Okay.
And it just has sat there, and we've had a rental up front, and we plug money in for asbestos, lead paint.
Gotcha. Okay.
Goes on and on and on, and we've had some tenant issues.
So our role as landlord is terminated as well. So
Right.
our third advantage. Great. Okay. Thank you, sir.
I am a realtor, but I'm not involved in this. Put
Can I
that
ask
out
a
there.
question?
Yep.
How much would the back piece property be worth? Do you know?
Well, we probably have to get that appraised. It's
The
it'll be
pieces left?
it's kind of a unique building. It doesn't have plumbing. It has water and sewer, water to it, but that'll probably be cut off from the front property, have to be brought into it, and sewer too. The stub in, right?
It already has its own.
That's its own water, but we need sewer back there. Yeah, there's a connection back off of Chesapeake. Right.
Right.
Any idea what it's going to be used for? Are they going to keep residential? I've heard all kinds of rumors.
Residential.
Residential? Wow.
Right, so basically, this resolution is approving the sale of it for $165,000 to the Amanda Rhodes. She's the one that's placed the contract on it.
With the stipulation, we're obviously saying 144, 298 is the,
Basically, right, that's,
and he's looking for like that 8,000, so we'll say,
what are you telling me?
all right.
If I could, I'm just looking back at their estimate. They always provide an estimate.
Approve the sale at 165.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, but you ought to look at the net. I always look at the net.
I understand.
I see the net, and
I don't want to.
we don't want to delay the sale of the property by arguing
Especially
over what
if
the
it's been hard
net's
to
going to
sell.
be.
Yeah.
But I don't want to
So
turn
if there-
loose. I don't want to be able to
I
turn
need
loose
a-
at 120.
If there's,
But you're not.
we could,
We'll get another contract. We'll get another contract.
I need a motion to accept the, for 165 for this property.
You okay with the net then?
Is there a motion for that?
I-
Well, we'll have more discussion. Let me get the motion made first, and a second, and then we'll discuss some more,
Okay.
okay?
Okay.
Motion, I need a motion to accept the
I
property.
propose
at
a motion to accept the property at 165,000.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Burns. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Davis. Now we have discussion. Commissioner Ritz.
On page 109, there's an estimate from TFJ Excavating for a sum of $10,100. That does not appear to be part of, obviously, it's not part of the closing costs. So what,
That's the repair to waterproof the basement. This was money that the town paid out before the sale, so it's not included in your closing cost estimate. So what we had done in Fund 2 is budget $12,000 for an addition, to add the basement, what we did in
okay,
for this budget FY 2020. We don't need to do that, so the 10,100 is being paid out of Fund 2 for 140.
it's already paid.
Well, yes, it will be. They're finishing work. I think they finished today.
Okay, thank you. And the mayor is saying that, okay, if we approve the sale of 165, obviously,
165.
there, 165,000, there are, the seller fees that we're responsible for. So we're showing right now a net of a little over 144, but potentially it could be a little lower.
Well, I
And
just
you're-
like, I like
That's
some
what the
leeway.
8,000 was for,
I-
to negotiate.
And what were you recommending?
I just think you ought to give me permission to look at the net we're going to get out of this.
Yes.
And that's important. And I like a little leeway of about 5%, about another 8,000, down to about 132. And if we don't get that, if it's a dogfight, it's an as-is contract. But if we're
Yes.
getting close and we have to put some extra money or lower the price, lower our net, then I just want to take care of it. Okay, go ahead.
I mean, I think
Is that great?
I like it off of our hands personally, but
He doesn't want to have to come back, that's why he wants to.
yes,
Yeah.
understood. That makes sense to me.
I could be wrong in this, but I don't think we can ourselves vote on the net sale price and what
No.
we're going to make from it. We have to approve the 165, and whatever comes of it at this point.
Yeah.
So I think from a commissioner standpoint, we're essentially voting on the 165.
Yes.
Whatever comes of it, if there is leeway for that 8,000 and whatever that case may be, we have to decide on the 165, not on the net profit at the end of the day.
Okay.
Any
Okay.
other questions?
Mr. Sweeney?
Mr. O'Donnell?
Thank you, sir. Does staff have any, sorry, does staff have any further input related to process for this item?
No, it's just essentially to approve the resolution at $165,000 to sell the house. The house is being sold as is. The buyer understands that. Yeah, I mean, we've done everything on our end that we need to do.
And if I could just make one clarification on the motion, it's going to be approval of ordinance 19/10, which approves the sale of 140 South Seton for consideration.
So,
All righty, Mr. Burns, you want to redo your? Oh, actually, we'll have to take it back, I guess, or do you want to just amend it? I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Okay.
You want to just amend it?
revise your motion.
I revise my motion to the approval of the ordinance series 2019, ordinance number 19-10, which is the sale of 140 South Seton at $165,000.
I need a second.
I second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Burns, second by Commissioner Davis. Any other discussion?
Yes, sir.
Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Any nays? Motion carries 5-0. Now what do we have here? Oh, we're at the end. Can you believe it?
Oh, you're right.
Set agenda for the next meeting.
First off, December 16th workshop, we have the planning workshop for the future economic development in the town of Emmitsburg. I have requested from Commissioner Sweeney and the mayor, and they both agreed. I need to add an amendment, approval of an amendment to the pool contract for the bathhouse remodel. There's additional funds that need to be spent for architectural plans and permitting that exceed my authority, so I need the board to approve it. I'd like to have that at the workshop so they can begin work. We've had to delay them on
Is
some.
that okay with everybody?
Sure.
Yes, sir.
That's enough advance notice for public?
Yes.
Okay.
2 weeks.
2 weeks? All right.
Yep.
All right.
I'll lose track of
It's
time.
more than two, so we're.
Okay.
Alrighty,
And then,
Next,
yeah,
setting
and then
the
for
agenda?
January 6th, 2020, first item will be the audit presentation by Michelle Mills, in which Cole provided copies of the audit in his cover memo for everybody to review prior to the meeting. And if you do have any questions that staff will need to address prior to the meeting, please email me, and we can get the information either back to you or have it ready to go for the meeting that night.
You have a cutoff for that to prepare the question?
Just January 6th. I don't have a calendar.
Sorry to interrupt, I just.
No, that's okay. If everybody can get them to me, January 6th is Monday. With a holiday. Let's
Yeah.
say no later than January 2nd for your questions for the audit. Preferably sooner with the holiday, but we can try to get them answered. Second item will be the final review and approval of the FY 2020 MHAA Wayside exhibits. So the contract will make the few changes that were discussed tonight, and staff will bring back the final drawings for you to review one last time. Do you see a need to bring the contractor back
No.
with their
I don't
minor
think so.
changes?
You guys don't need to see anything else changed on here, do you? On these photographs? The Wayside exhibits?
We'll evaluate them based on the corrections made. We'll see those in the documents provided to us. If we find there is an error or omission, what recourse do we have? Do we just staff then would carry it back to the contractor?
Yes.
Okay. Personally, I don't see any need for the contractor attending unless another board member has a different reason.
He's welcome to.
Yes, sir, absolutely. He's welcome to do it, but one of the concerns would be errors and omissions.
Do I have to do it?
And whatever you, after they submit it to us with the changes, then you guys can let staff know if you have any
Correct.
corrections you want to do.
And then related to the public hearings, review planning commission recommendations, hold a public hearing and approval of proposed ordinance 1907, forest conservation, and ordinance 1908, which would amend the commercial district buffer for consideration. Those are the two that you referred to the planning commission tonight.
They'll be separate?
It can be one agenda item with two separate motions, but they can both be done under the same public hearing.
Okay.
I'm sorry, a question then. Does that mean the planning commission, we're reviewing those on the 17th?
That's in your packet.
that
That's what you
what
got
that
to
was?
read. Yeah,
I didn't open it yet.
I know.
All right,
Yep.
thanks.
That's what you got to read
Okay,
now.
just, thank you.
Okay.
And then finally, I have the approval of logging stand 6 for consideration. We'd like to bring, Mike Kay's only available to Mark in January. That'll give him time to have reviewed what they did with stand 5. Obviously, if we're not happy or there's concerns, we can certainly delay it, but in the essence of time, he'd like to bring recommendations back for stand 6 for board review and approval for consideration. And then the only other thing that I would note is if, depending on what happens with the planning workshop on December 16th, there may be ordinances related to that we want to bring forth in January. But we can add those to the agenda after that December 16th workshop, if need be.
Okay.
And that will still be enough time to post the agenda for public notice.
And you will go through number 5, stand 5, to see what you.
Prior to that, yes, sir.
Suggest. That way they will have it all done for them.
I will get out there at least once with the Sunday, hopefully more than once with, the trick is I'm limited to Sundays with hunting. I know people aren't supposed to be hunting out there, but, again,
Wear orange.
correct, always do.
Is there any, is that it? For
Yes.
agenda? Is there any administrative business?
Got one. I'd like to, like to invite the football team in for some kind of presentation that we'll as a group work out, and whether they win, lose, they've already won. They're going there.
Yeah, this is huge.
But I just want them here.
No, I think that's a great idea. And then maybe even going forward, any of our local sports teams. I don't think we ever had any here.
Yeah,
That would be
we
great.
have rugby here.
Well, I mean, yeah, the Mount, but high school and
Sure.
In regards to that, for their sake, if we do bring the football team in for something of that nature, could we push that towards the front of the meeting?
Sure.
I think if you put it under administrative business,
That's in the beginning.
and that's
Yeah,
at the very
as-
beginning, and
as close to the
then
beginning as possible, so
Correct.
that they don't lose their minds.
that's true. They could be future politicians, though.
True.
They'd be interested in the process of the
Those
meeting. but-
those two guys will stay.
yeah.
And
No, I hear you.
the rest will
That's reasonable.
quickly run out the
Is
door.
there any other administrative business?
Homework. Got your homework. Okay.
Making sure Mr. Burns writes the absence excuse notice for the next day for all the students.
Yeah,
Let's get out of here.
got it covered.
Let's go home.
That's good.
If there's nothing else for the town meeting, I need a motion to close the meeting.
I make a motion to close the meeting.
Motion's been made by Commissioner O'Donnell. Is there a second?
I second the motion at 9:50.
Commissioner Sweeney?
Yes.
Can you make a motion to approve the agenda?
Oh, I'm sorry.
I withdraw my
You
motion
just
to
need a
close the
consent
meeting.
or you just need approval?
I can do consent, but it needs to be for both the 16th, since I amended it, and then the
Okay.
January 6th
Is,
also,
is
please.
everybody okay with the added agenda item for the 16th of December?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, everybody's also okay with the agenda items for January the 6th?
Yes.
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 Administrative business.
Yes.
Okay, there's your consent.
That's perfect.
Second by Commissioner Burns. All in favor of the, say
Wait, I
aye.
withdrew the motion, so I remake the motion to close the meeting.
I second the motion
Commissioner O'Donnell,
at 9:51.
motion. Mr. Burns, second. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Any nays? Thank you for coming.
What's your time? What's your time there, sir?
9:51.
9:51.
Merry Christmas.